Hello, and welcome back to Developmental Psychology. Today we're going to be talking about Chapter 7 about socialization, social development, psychosocial development, what have you. This stuff is really essential because as we realize in psychology, people are social beings. There's so much to who you are individually, personally, that is shaped by your interactions with other people. And I'm talking about in continual lifespan development. This stuff is very, very important, socialization. So much so that I've talked to a lot of parents who really worry about their children being socialized. It's not really something you force on someone, however. The best socialization is that which just simply happens as we interact with other people. Toward this end, we are coming from a perspective in psychology here called the ecological perspective, which says to understand a person, you have to understand that person's ecology, the environment in which the person lives. I'm not going to say just the environment in which you are raised, but the environment in which you live. It's still going on. And that means we're not just incorporating you and your family, but the people your family interacts with, the community, the church, the nation. All of these, to some degree, have an effect on you and your development. So consider, as you read this chapter, each of these different contexts and how it affects you. We're really looking at families as systems, the system of the family. How does the family operate? How does the family regularly deal with different issues? How do the people in the family interact? And I know that a lot of times we get this idea that each person in the family has an effect on us, and so here we are, the center of this circle of other people have effect on each other. They have effect on us. Here's the thing, though, with an ecology, we're not just affected by those relationships that are directly associating with us, but we're affected by the modeling of the other relationships. So I'll give you an example to illustrate how you look at relationships right now, especially like romantic relationships, isn't shaped so much by what other people have done for you, to you, told you, or whatever, but you're shaped with those relationships by the romantic relationships that you observed. So you're looking at parents or caregivers or adults in the house. You're looking at the TV shows that you watched, the movies you watched, the relationships that you viewed, and the people you really had a lot of respect for, and those you didn't have any respect for. So we're really affected that way. As far as parenting goes, a lot of the literature on developmental psychology explains a lot to do with parenting and parenting issues and dimensions and styles of parenting and practices of parenting, and all that stuff is very important. In this chapter, focus primarily as far as parenting. Make sure that you note those dimensions, two different ways of looking at parenting: the warmth of the parent and the way that parent communicates discipline. Whether it's yes or no in each of those dimensions gives us 4 different kinds of parents. I'll let you read that and see what you think about that, those dimensions and styles of parenting. The controversy is really comes up where we're trying to understand how do the different kinds of parenting affect who we become as people, and to what degree do our parenting issues shape who we are. Now, we are adults now, so probably a lot of the parenting that you had when you were growing up, it's come to the point where you can accept or reject that. Basically, you can say, yeah, this is the way I was parented, however, I don't have to live that way anymore. So you do have that. Research also shows us there's another dimension of families here that we're now seeing have a lot of effect on who we are, and that's the presence of siblings or the absence of siblings. Think about it. If you are a brother or sister, or you are an only child, and other people did they have brothers and sisters, and how does that shape you? How does it shape you if you're the oldest or the youngest? All of this is definitely a question in this chapter. We're also now in psychology research looking at the question of families in terms of what is a family and what is it that makes a family. Does it always have to be biological relationships? Because there are a lot of families out there, we call them blended families, that are put together by people who care about each other, whatever, they live in the same house, and so they affect one another, but they may be the products of divorce. It could be the products of I'm saying people as products. That's awful for a psychologist. People are people, they're not products. But the degree to which you are influenced by those relationships and why you're put together with the people in your household, and how does that affect you? Because it doesn't necessarily have to be like, well, I'm in a blended family, have these step siblings, that because you're step siblings you have to hate each other. You could be closer than you would be with your blood relatives. It's okay. So this is what we're seeing in this chapter you're reading, and also in research, psychology research, is the question of what is it really that makes this family, and what is it that makes relationships work. You'll also see another dimension as we're now talking about school and being in school, middle childhood and early adolescence in this chapter, that we have this question raised about what is a peer, or what is a clique, and what is the crowd. Do you know the difference between a clique and a crowd? You're probably closer to the people in a clique. The crowd are maybe just people you identify with. Peers, where maybe a clique is closer to a group of your friends. What does that mean? There are a lot of dimensions to a group that's forced to be together, like a classroom. What is it that leads children to become popular or average or rejected or neglected? What are those dimensions, and why is it that we do identify ourselves that way when this is a dimension that's largely given to us by other people, not ourselves? You can feel great about yourself, and then everybody else thinks you're worthless, and what do you think? You start to think you're worthless. See, this socialization is really important. It has a lot to do with how do we see ourselves. Consequently, we have one more issue, I think, that this brings up, this idea of the socialization, and how do we really give other people the right to define us. This also brings up the issue of aggression, bullying, prejudice. All of these are issues that we're really struggling with today. A student asked me last semester, why is it that young people come to school with guns and shoot and kill each other? What do you think as a developmental psychologist? And I said, it's not an easy answer. There's a lot in this chapter. So maybe when you're reading, keep that question in the back of your mind, in the front of your mind. What is it about socialization? Because a lot of it may be, how do we define each other? If I'm angry and frustrated, like everybody gets sometimes, angry and frustrated, what is it that separates the person who says take somebody else's life from the person who's just angry and frustrated and maybe yells or screams a little bit or something like that? To where do some people lose track of how much other people are valued, such that they would look at you as being just somebody to kill rather than somebody as a human being? It's a big question. Anyway, I don't have me to leave you with a heavy note, but there it is. I hope you're having a great week. I hope you please take care of yourselves. You have value as people, as you're an individual. You're worth it. You're worth love and care and concern. So care for yourself and have a great week.